Good day.
To comment during the Frankly Speaking show, you first need to open the video that is being streamed live. Look for the chat box on the side or bottom. This is where you can type your message. Click inside the chat box and use your keyboard to type out what you want to say. You can type words, use emojis, or even ask questions. Once you've typed your message,
Good day. Since the start of the new school year, frankly speaking, there have been several incidents with students being turned away or denied access to their schools because of hairstyle. This is a perennial problem and crops up in many places. The hair problem used to be coupled with dress or infringements to the uniform code of particular schools. Frankly speaking, why is hair still an issue? Should it rightly be anyway? Then we have for the second part of the Frankly Speaking podcast today, another matter that does not seem to be going away. An increasing number of Jamaicans ending their working life in great financial insecurity without pensions. Thank you for joining us today. Our guests to discuss hair and grooming issues in schools are Shanique Bowden, Executive Director of Jamaica Youth Advocacy Network, and Stuart Jacobs, President of the National Parent Teachers Association of Jamaica, NPTAJ. After that, we go on to the pensions issue with expert Grace McLean of BPM Financial. With us today are regular panelists Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson Brown. We invite your comments and questions by using the comment section of the channel or by following the procedures as set out at the top of the program. Of course, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do so. Let's first go to Ms. Bowden. Ms. Bowden, what's your latest report on the more recent responses of schools to infringements, particularly, if you wish, on the edging or of hair or baby hair?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much for having me, Mr. Franklin, and other co-hosts. So I think many things are certain in life and death, and that every September we are going to have some reports coming out about grooming infractions. And so it was almost like clockwork that this was to be expected. Generally, our position at JAN is that we think that the Ministry of Education, one, needs to have a bit more of a stronger presence in how schools are led to develop, their policies around grooming and those sort of things to make it a bit more standardized. But more overarching is a general concern around students being locked out of schools because of grooming infringements. So even on Monday, the first official day of school on Monday, September 8th, I actually was witness to the Calabar students who were locked out because I drive past Calabar every morning to go to work. So I was there when I saw it and I was like, oh my, not this happening again. I don't have any particular comments on the edges matter. I mean, personally, I think it's a bit ridiculous, but I think the most significant issue that we are having at JAN is not so much that the rules are the problem, but how the rules are being enforced and how schools are choosing to address the issues of non-compliance with the rules. So I think that's generally where we are in relation to this issue.
Mr. Jacobs, would you like to give me a comment before my panelists jump in? Would you like to give us an opening salvo on this, Mr. Jacobs, of the National Parent Teachers Association?
Education, secondary education, primary and early childhood education is not all about literacy and numeracy. It also involves the cognitive and the critical thinking of the individual. What does that do? It sets the tone of how they will apply themselves society.
Your voice level is going down a little bit, Mr. Jacobs. I don't know if it's something that we are not doing. Can you just say again?
Yes. How they will apply themselves in society, and how society will apply themselves to the individual. And therefore, like all civilized society, even uncivilized one, there are rules to follow. Rules of engagement, rules of existence, rules of how you behave within a specified area, time, space. If you do not agree with a particular rule, there are ways in which you can go about um, um, expressing your dislike for the rule, but the expression must not be where you break the rule. And so, for the foundation for me is that these policies need to be looked at again. School administration have a right to operate their schools, and parents have that right to teach their children to follow the rules, and the children have a right to follow the rules of the parents and society. And that is where my base structure is. That rules exist, and there are ways in which you can go outside the rules within a structured way.
And how the rules are enforced. Does that bother you at all? Whether students are locked out at the gate or sent home to bring their parents? Does that bother you? As happens in some places.
As I've said in other forum, and I repeat it: do not lock the child out of the school compound because you leave them to the mercy of the elements and others. You allow them in the premises, within the confines of the school, the safety of the school grounds. Quarantine them in a classroom where there is teacher contact, guidance counselor contact, mentorship contact. Send for the parents. Let the parents come and take the child home and go home and fix the hair, fix the uniform, correct the breaches, and let them come back to school the next morning. But do not leave them outside. Because the rule, it is very simple. Less than 1% of a school population breaks the rules. If you ever allow that less than 1% in the school without you correcting it, you have anarchy the next morning. Everybody's going to come like that. So to take them into the confines of the school, safe area, parents come and get them and go fix it and come back the next morning. That's our take on it.
Well, I want to ask you, Mr. Jacob, since my colleagues want to comment, I want to ask you if you're not concerned that this is a matter that affects just black children in the main. And this is here is a way people express themselves, And for example, edging of recent time, it's just a way of young girls wanting to look good and doing what is necessary to look good. What's wrong with that?
I have done my research. Edging is not
true now, viewers. This is
edging is not an African thing. I've done my research. It's not a black African thing. It is not. Okay? And it's not an expression of culture. We must look at it this way. We are going through phases of subcultures in Jamaica. Phases of subcultures. But there is a distinct culture. And I want us to look at it this way. And it's a pity we never have on this panel an anthropologist or culturalist to look at the phases in which we redefine our culture. Let me be frank with you. 70 years ago, my color and your color, Mr. Franklin, would not be readily accepted in traditional high schools. We would not be. But the culture had to change to suit us, to allow us into schools. And in allowing us into schools, our society got better and wider. The banks, the financial institution, the corporate world did not allow our people of African descent of a certain hue to work at the front. Some of them had to enter from the back. But culture has changed.
And some hairstyles would not have been allowed
That-
even when they were allowed to enter.
Exactly. 'Cause I can tell you that Kingston College, Excelsior High School, and St. George's College were the first to allow Rastafarians in school when it was illegal. They allowed Rastafarian children to come to school. But that took some time for that subculture to be worked out. What we are seeing now is this proliferation of every single school term. There's a new design, there's a new style that is coming into the school. 2 years ago, children had a bag marked dunce on it. Then you had students coming to school with a mohawk. Then you had students coming to school with their pants very tight. Then you had girls going to school with their skirt all the way up to the buttocks, where schools had to come in and say it must be below the ankles. And all kind of excuse was found that because of the heat and the temperature, everything. Schools are designed to protect our children. Schools are designed to ensure.
I'd love to hear your response to
Come out.
Mr. Jacobs.
So I think is that for me?
Go ahead, Ms. Bob.
So no, I was thinking when you touched on the issues around Africanism and just culture and those sort of things. Again, I don't really know the history and the story behind edges, but I do think if we look at even some of the anecdotal evidence that we do see generally in what is being reported, it does skew a bit towards African boys and girls. I was in high school not too long ago, and the rule at my high school was that the hair for boys could not be more than, or I think 2 inches high. But that obviously did not apply to the students who were, Chinese, Indian descent, who could arguably have worn their hair much longer than African boys who, had their natural curls growing from their head. So I do think that there is generally some cultural biases that operate in how the rules are both written and applied. And I don't know if it's very, I don't know if it's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Obvious sort of thinking on the part of the principals and the administrators, but it translates that way in practice. And so even when we think about what is contained in the school grooming policy draft that the ministry has been putting out for years now, is that, they look at things like that, religious expression, cultural expression, that should be contemplated and ensure that there are no biases that are being put towards one particular group in how the rules are being applied. But what we do see, unfortunately, is that there are some inherent biases that do manifest in how the rules are made and the persons who are so-called, the persons who are the victims of the rules and how they're applied. Because, I only saw so many reports, but I can't say definitively if I saw any Caucasian, Chinese, or Indian-looking boy or girl last week, being put out because of grooming infractions.
Yes, and I want to just say, Desmond is coming in, but just before we get in, Desmond, I want to say that the matter of school grooming policy has been under consideration for quite a while with the National Council of Education, NCE, doing a lot of work for years now, and it is still not, it's still in the ministry on gathers. It's still not out there approved and out there yet generally. Desmond, go ahead.
No, before Desmond goes, hold on, Desmond. I just want to declare something here. I'm actually the deputy chair for the National Council on Education. That same body that discusses the policies in school and governance.
Okay.
Just to declare that.
Yes.
Well, I have to bring some old school views on this point. Schools are institutions. They are not institutions to display styles. Institutions of learning. And therefore, I think the students should and must obey the rules at schools. So if afros are not allowed, then you can't wear afro. You can't wear high heel shoes. You can't wear tight pants. I don't think this is an issue that it's something that we should be discussing these matters. The problems affecting the educational system, they are so troublesome that for us to be spend time and school to be spend time discussing styles and grooming. No. Rules are at the schools, and the students must obey the rules. And we must now spend our time focusing on how we must improve the system so that we can prevent children leaving school being illiterate. Those are the issues I think that we should concentrate our time on.
And a joiner to that, Desmond, is that people are saying that's what we should be focusing on, rather than time locking out schools, children, rather than examining whether their pants are too tight or need an inch one at the ankles, etc. So why does it keep coming up? It keeps coming up because of a reason. Is it that because there are some people who are libertarian and they believe that the rules must be relaxed? Or is it that the schools are wrongly focused? So Jacobs?
No, the schools are not wrongly focused. Libertarian is more. You have some parents who have no control over their children. Frankly speaking, you have some children who are bent on breaking rules, and you have some parents who are also bent on breaking rules. I would want to say also that if you should get granular and look at those individuals who came on the Monday morning, the first day of school, with those breaches, if you should check their records, they are consistent rule breakers in the school. Consistent. We are breeding a society that is accepting mediocrity. We're accepting a society where it is how you feel and not what should attain. We are breeding a society that is fast moving, want to just wrap up and move on. And so what? The school are popped down. But why are you concentrating on how my child is dressed? Because it has nothing to do with the brain. Yes, it has something to do with the brain. Because when that child goes into the real society and there's lawlessness, the same way or you're locking them out of school, you're going to be taking those same students and locking them up in a prison because they did not comply to rules. They did not stop at the stop sign. They did not adhere to the red light, and they end up in prison because we have not allowed them to reason within the confines of rules. The schools cannot accommodate it. Sure.
Here's a comment from Owen Richards. He says, schools cannot accommodate the latest styles in fashion and culture to satisfy students. Thanks, Owen.
You were about to speak.
Yes, I wanted to interject on a few things that both Mr. Desmond, Mr. Franklin, and Mr. Jacob said. So just to be clear, Jayan's position is not that, that the school rules themselves are unusual or wrong in any way or shape or form, or larger things is about how the rules are being enforced. And even Mr. Jacob just said something about, when we do things that contravene the law, there are consequences. But I'm thinking about it in the context of what we generally see happening in schools itself. If a child comes to school late every morning, at least I've not seen any reports to say that they are locked up because they're late. They're written up. Then parents get called to say, why John Brown keeps coming after the first bell rings. He's missing devotion. He's missing registration, whatever. If there's a fight, there's a disciplinary hearing, there's suspension, and there are protocols. But the default for some schools seems to be, you come in, your hair is not to my liking, your uniform isn't to my liking, locked out. That in of itself is the problem. It is a child safety issue about how it is that we are protecting children, when they're in the school environment. When children are at school, it's the responsibility of the school to ensure that they are taken care of. And if I, as a parent, send my child to school and they are locked out and I have to hear about it from the media, that is problematic. But I also think, too, it's a matter of how we sort of jump from one extreme to the other. Because if I'm driving and I run a red light, the first option is not to lock me up. I get a ticket, right? I get a ticket. And if I then decide that I'm going to turn right at a sign that says no right turn, if I'm going to turn left at a sign that says no left turn, and I'm going to hit people with my car and those sort of things, that is when it starts to escalate. Schools are seemingly going from 0 to 100 real quick when it comes to this one particular issue. And it's a bit baffling as to why. So I think there needs to be some sort of interrogation into why it is that this seems to be the default the default punishment, so to speak, for this particular infraction.
You're talking about the locking out.
Yes.
The locking out, which I don't know if we see it with,
Yes,
with
before-
some type of other stuff. Like if a student fight, I don't think the default is to lock them out of school the
There's
next
something.
morning.
There's something
Well-
that was said that should not go unchallenged. It cannot be, and it never is, because it is not to my liking. It is because there's an infringement of the rule. That is why students are treated the way they are. I'm not saying that is right, but it's not correct to say if this is not to my liking. Is if the rule is infringed. I think
Yes,
it's
if the
important.
rule is infringed, but like
Yes.
rules have consequences. For this particular thing, the why that we're trying to figure out is why is the consequence to.
No,
And
I
also,
understand
to be
that,
very
but
honest,
let's be
I would
clear.
like to.
I
but
understand
when I
that,
think
but
we're
let's
very
be
honest.
clear. A teacher or anyone at a school doesn't look and say, I don't like this. It is that this goes against the rule. So let us be clear on that. I'm not speaking about the merits or demerits of the punishment. Just
Okay.
the fact that must be clear. That is an infringement of the rule that is dealt with, not the dislike of a teacher or someone at the institution. Kimani?
That is true, and I would
say-
I'd like to.
Right. Kimani,
I like that.
may I read the comment that is here now? Or perhaps we're creating a society that rightfully questions age-old archaic traditions that exist merely for conformity's sake. Rules should exist for the benefit of those who are subjected to them.
I'd like
Well,
to
like
kind of expound a bit.
Go ahead, Desmond.
No, the president of the PTA made a point earlier on which I want to associate myself with. I don't see the reason why principals should take it upon themselves to lock out students because they infringe the rules of the school. No, you can't do that. You have to. What should be done is that the students are taken out. They should not go into their classroom. But as the president of the PTA said, they should be separated and kept at school. Their
But
parents
you don't want them
informed.
to go into their classroom. That's why they come to school.
No, but listen, what we are saying, Franklin, that the rules of the school says that your ear must be of a certain height. When you infringe the rules, I am saying, when you infringe the rules, the principal or the teachers must enforce the rules. That is what I'm saying. So you cannot you must not infringe the rules and then you get a pat on the shoulder. No, you must that must not happen. This school is saying that the rules here is XYZ, and we want all the students to obey the rules at the school. We want that.
Mr.
like to
Jacobs, what is
expound-
it? What
I'd
is
like
it?
to-
What is your what is the position of the PTAJ on how the school responds out of class, the punishment,
I said it. I mean, allow them in the school. Do not leave them out. Allow them in the school, in a classroom where there is teacher contact, guidance counselor contact, and possible mentorship. Send for the parent to come to take the child to go home, come back, after fixing the breach. But I want to just expound a bit on why I use the analogy of the stoplight. It is to zoom in and center on the importance of following the rules, although you might not be in an agreement with it. Because the very same stoplight that you look left, you don't see anybody coming, and you go through it, a car is coming at 180 miles per hour, and you're dead. You're dead because you did not stop and wait at the red sign. Rules are made just to not to keep us in a paddock like animals, but it is also there to keep us safe. I tell my children sometimes that I'm sometimes protecting you from yourself by applying these rules.
But just allow me to just ask whether your organization communicates with the schools where we have heard that students have been locked out, and what if any is the response from principals to that?
We have not made direct contact as yet with principals. What we do know is that our PTA presidents for those schools are members of the school board, because a school board cannot be fully constituted unless a school board rep is on the school board. And so we are waiting for them to have the administration's directive, and then we'll have discussions with them. So
and another quick one, you were talking about the NCE. So where is the policy, the grooming policy now that is supposed to go through all the schools after all this long time of discussion?
It's still being discussed, and I do hope that the next round of discussions it will be on table to be put in place. Can't speak too much to it, but I can say that it's
a
at
long
an
time
advanced
though.
stage.
It's a long time though. So you are aware.
These things take time. Remember, the teaching bill took 20 odd years before it was taken and finally passed. 20 plus years.
Okay. Winnie, are you seeing those comments?
Yes, there was a comment. Yes, here's one. Kimani, those rules, yes, those same rules also aren't being enforced uniformly. It's also hypocritical for us to demand students comply with the rules when school admin continues to contravene the policies set by ministry. That's Kimani. There was another one from Keith, I think. Yes, Keith P. I agree. I'm bringing it up. I agree. A student should be properly attired, but why is there a problem with their hair? That says Keith P. And the final one, I concede.
Can you respond to that?
Let me do this before he responds. So let me do this before he responds. Okay, Kimani says, I concede with Desmond. Locking students out of school only jeopardizes their safety and makes them susceptible to being involved in unsafe/delinquent activity. Now over to you, Desmond.
Well, as you know, Franklin, in Jamaica, Jamaica is a class society, and you know that in this country, which is a majority black country, majority black population, but the majority of black people in Jamaica, as we speak, are at the bottom, right? And those who are in control of the society, they look down on black people. So for example,
well, you seem to be suggesting that the hair policy is another way of discriminating against the majority population.
Of course it is, because remember, look at Bob Marley. You remember that Bob Marley was not recognized by the Jamaican by us, you know. Remember, he was is after he gained international stardom before we recognize him. Uptown people used to refer to those people a little dirty Rasta man, you know. Remember. So I know that there in the country that we are right now, the system that run the country, it is not pro, or should I say, black people are discriminated against.
As I say, you sound to be making the case, but I want to wrap
I
up.
like to say something with this. What the
Yes, I'm
NPTAG
making.
has,
You can be your
what the
final
MP,
comment, Mr.
yes,
Mr. Jacobs.
yes, what the
Go ahead.
NPTAG is suggesting, and we will be writing formally to the ministry, is to have a sit down with us, the NPTAG, the Ministry of Education, that team that works with grooming in schools, along with principals, the JTA, and an anthropologist and a culturalist, to sit and look at the various changes of our society, to see how we can align some of these policies and rules with our cultural changes or our cultural makeup, because it is going to continue to happen, because the hairstyle is an expression of culture, and it is also an expression of the individual. So we cannot take away from the individual's expression, neither can we take away from a cultural norm or the cultural change. And so it's to sit and look at this so as to not have this interaction or this very caustic meeting of culture, personal culture, social culture, and rules. It has to be where there's an understanding. So we'll be pushing for that certainly before the end of the school term.
All right. So before we
I
finish,
don't,
I'm going to allow Ms. Bowden just to have
And
a final say on this. But
I hope
before
sitting on that.
before you bring in Miss Bow, I just want to ask our guests, both of our guests, this question: what is being done, and to address the crucial issues facing education now? I'm talking about what is being done to make it to improve the quality of the education, to stop children leaving school being illiterate. What I would like to know, hear from both of you, what
Mr.
is
Jacob, you'd
being
like to
done.
put in a quick response, and then we allow Ms. Bowden to respond quickly and
Sure. If
give our final comments.
there's a thrust which started for this year, where there's going to be a guarantee of literacy between grade 1 to 3, where no child will move on from that stage to go on into high school unless they are fully literate. And also, learning disabilities is being looked at, because that has been one of the reason or the causes for children seemingly not able to matriculate with their peers. There's a lot being done to ensure that it is done. Billions of dollars is being pumped into it with extra teachers and all of that. So I suspect that within another 2 years or so, this cohort coming out will be more
Mr. Jacob,
literate.
Mr. Jacob, we're going to have you back on another occasion to discuss that, because there are lots of issues with some of the stuff that you mentioned there, including special needs issues. But thanks for the response to that. But we appreciate that. It's about your time and allowing you to give your wrap-up comments for this
Yeah,
segment.
so I mean, so JN is a non-governmental organization. So the most that we can do and have been doing has been, trying to lobby the government and the Ministry of Education to do intervention into the issues that Desmond would have brought in. But even like other issues such as, violence in school, which is a very big issue, very prominent, very problematic. The school feeding program and those sort of things are things that we've also been advocating for. But I think generally in terms of like my wrap up, what I would want to say is that we want to see, so we have this school grooming policy guideline that is just, a concept. I'm happy to hear Mr. Jacobs talk about how he's going to meet with the ministry and everybody and trying to see how best we can fast track the finalization of that. But even beyond just the policy being finalized, we need to also see that policy that's being actualized in, like, making it make sense. We often see coming out of various ministries, and particularly the Ministry of Education and Youth, policies that are just sitting on paper for them to say that they just have policies for policy's sake that do not actually bring about the changes that we hope these policies will see. And so I'm hoping that, one, we can see a more stronger push from the ministry to put sanctions to the schools that are repeatedly locking out the students and not exploring other alternative forms of discipline, and that we can also see a policy that will be stronger and that will be applied more equally across the board.
And thank you, Shanique Bowden of the Jamaica Youth Advocacy Network, and to Mr. Stuart Jacobs of the National Parent Teachers Association of Jamaica. We thank you both, and I think that the one thing we could say we all agree on is that students should not be locked out of the school, left outside of the school as any form of punishment, however one thinks of that punishment. And thank you both, Stuart Jacobs and Shanique Bowden. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me. All the best.
Great. And so we're going to go on to now another issue that is, oh yes, and we're getting the thanks from Kimani saying, excellent discussion, everyone. Thank you for your insights. Now, we want to go on to this matter of pensions. And we welcome Ms. Grace McLean from BPM Financials. Ms. McLean is a licensed financial advisor. She's a retirement specialist. And up to very recently, she wrote a regular weekly column in one of the newspapers. And she has also been on public media radio regularly. Welcome, Ms. McLean. And we're going to start by ask you to give us a brief outline of the situation with pensions in these countries where there's an aging population.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McKnight, and thanks for having me here this afternoon. I'm very passionate about pension and retirement planning, and good afternoon to the panel and to the viewers. Okay, so in terms of the situation in Jamaica, 20% of the working population contribute to a pension fund in Jamaica.
20%,
which means,
one out of every five.
Approximately 20%. And it even gets worse because of those who are contributing, 1 in 10 actively participate in a pension plan, which means they open the plan, they start, but the contributions are not coming in on a regular basis. So that's also cause for concern.
Not coming in from the person who started
From the
plan?
person, or yes, from the individuals or the companies. Because if you're self-employed, you can start your own pension plan, because you do have retirement schemes for self-employed persons, entrepreneurs. Others may be working with companies that do not have a pension plan in place for them. And so they take out their own pension, so they're responsible for making the payments themselves. Then there are others who salary deductions may be coming in. The salary deduction ones, those are regular, they come in monthly, I find. But those who don't have a system in place for the pension to be paid, it can be very irregular, especially companies that do not have a group pension, and each staff take out their own plan. And some companies do not encourage salary deduction for pension plans. So the staff are on their own in making those payments on a regular basis.
So where does that leave us? You're saying about 2 out of every 10 would be involved in some sort of pension plan, but that's not regular for some of them in any case. So where does that leave?
It means that we have a retirement crisis in Jamaica, because what we have a reduced workforce, because the fertility rate is declining, right? So what you're having, if 80% of the persons who are working are not contributing to a pension plan, what will happen to that 80% when they retire? Where we do have an aging population. As of this year, 17% of the population will are aged over 60. 60 years and over, 17% of our population, 2025, age 60 years and over. It means that the authorities and our stakeholders should be managing and looking at the demography of the country, of the population, you know, assessing where people are living longer. More people are living over age 80. And we need to also look at the retirement age. Many persons are retired, but they're going up back to work because they cannot afford to live off the pension that they are getting.
Now,
Most
let me just
persons,
ask you: Is it that many of the companies are not in a financial position, especially because we know that there are many small companies are not in a position financially to fund a pension plan? And how do
no,
you get around
remember,
that? If a company is not very profitable, they
I,
might
I
have
don't,
some
I don't,
difficulty.
I don't think that's an excuse, honestly, because some companies, the law has not made it mandatory for companies to contribute to a pension or have a pension plan in place, which I think the law should be changed to for all companies, anybody who employ anybody. Make everybody, it's automatic for you to have a pension plan, but you'd have conditions attached to it where you can come out at certain point, like in the first 3 months if you change your mind, and then you can come back in later on if you so desire. It has worked in other jurisdictions. It can work here. It has nothing to do with the companies being profitable. Remember, you're not asking companies to fund a group pension for their staff. You're asking companies to sensitize their employees of the importance of contributing to a personal pension.
Yes, but the company
So
would
they can
normally have to make part of that contribution. I'm
no,
not obviously not
no.
taking
This
up
is
for
this
company.
is what I'm saying to you, that the pension landscape has changed. You have what is called a retirement scheme. In other words, that's an individual pension plan, and it's very popular now. It has been around, I think, from about 2008, but it has been around for some time. So this is why I say to you that the self-employed can take out their own pension. Persons who work at different companies, they come in, individuals come in to BPM all the time to open their own pension plan because the companies that they work, sometimes they're, and another thing, a lot of the companies are putting their staff on contract. So you have financial institutions, government institutions that have staff on contract, which means they are not going to get a pension from the government or there's the private sector. So they are asked to take out their own pension. So you can actually open your own pension plan and decide how much you want to contribute to it. That's the
Yes,
Jamaica that
I'm going to
we
come
know.
to some specifics there because you're opening up quite a few angles, and Winnie will go to some comments. But I have on WhatsApp a comment on Yvonne in Doha, in Dubai. Sorry, in Dubai. Yvonne is asking, what about a pension plan for the likes of helpers?
Okay, and I'm glad you mentioned that because even at BPM Financial, where I work, we have a number of helpers who have their own pension. The employers come in with their helpers and open pension plans for them, and the employer is contributing to it, and the
What
helper
will
is
give
making
us
a
a sense of what
contribution
sort
to
of
it.
money that is? I mean, obviously, I don't expect it to be as
No, it's based on their salary. Remember, the pension law of Jamaica says the maximum you can contribute to your pension is 20% of your gross salary. So when that helper comes in, right, we calculate their salaries, and based on what they can afford, they make a contribution, and we have employers who have been matching what the helper contributes. In my own family,
But hold
as
on,
employees,
before you go, sorry, before you go in your own family, how long does that take? How long must that helper and the employer contribute to that? And that helper leaves that job, what happens?
if the helper leaves the job, the pension plan is a personal pension, so it goes with the employee. So the employer cannot say, okay, you're not working for me anymore, so I need to get back the money that I contributed. The employer cannot get it back. That's a benefit. That's an employee benefit, a pension benefit for that helper. So that helper can know, go on her own, work elsewhere, do whatever she wants, and contributes from the income that she earns. So if she has 3 different jobs for the week that she goes to different houses and work, she can contribute from that to that pension. And this is why I was
Very
giving you the
interesting.
example that in my own family, we have employed a caregiver for a family member. And what we have done is the employer, the caregiver contributes to a pension plan, and we match her pension. Whatever she contributes, we contribute an equal amount to her pension. So what I'm saying is that the nation as a whole need to be sensitized. We can't be caught up so much with minimum wage and salary increases, but we are not looking at the future of those persons that we're paying the minimum wage to. What will happen when they stop working for you? When they reach retirement age and cannot work anymore?
Miss
Where will
McLean,
it come from? Yes, you can go
Miss
ahead.
Mc,
Desmond, before you go in, Winnie, you want to take a couple of comments there, Winnie?
Sue Taylor says,
And
how
then Desmond.
stable, how stable is the pension distribution now? And Moses says, because many small businesses couldn't afford, let me find it. Because many small businesses couldn't afford
Couldn't afford it.
couldn't
Forcing them
afford
would
it.
kill
Yes,
them.
I see the whole thing now. Forcing them would kill jobs. So Jamaica encourages pensions but can't make them mandatory.
We should make them mandatory. As a matter of fact, the PIAJ, that is the Pension Industry Association of Jamaica, has lobbied the government. The government has actually been looking at that as well, and it has not gone. As I said, it's before Parliament, but nothing has happened yet. Now, an automated pension or a mandatory pension is not anything for anybody to be scared about. Because, as I said before, in other countries, it has proven to work. And what happened is that you have a time, like after 3 months of contributing, you can decide to opt out of it, and your monies are refunded to you. But if you stay longer than 3 months in it, it will not be refunded until when you retire or if death happens. And what the research has showed that in countries that it worked very well for is that up to 50 to 80% of those who start continue to contribute. So this is why I know it can work in Jamaica, right? Because
But McLean,
yes,
I have to side with Moses there is where I was
yes,
going. I have to side with Moses before Desmond remember your question, but I have to side with
yes.
Moses there. You have a small business, Miss McLean.
Mm-hmm.
Let us say I have a small business and I employ one person for $30 a week and another one for $20 a week. They're my 2 employees.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm barely able to pay them their wages because of all the things that happen in Jamaica. Might also get me involved in other stuff. I'm now going to be required to pay them to pay a pension if it becomes mandatory. And I have to
Mm-hmm.
find another $5 on top of that $50 a week, $5,000 or $10,000, depending on the amount that they put in. That might cause a situation where I might have to really let one of them go or hurt the business or prevent me from paying the electricity bill. I've
But
heard
remember the
small business
NIS
people
too.
argue that too.
Remember, you need to add in the NIS. That is compulsory. NIS and NHT for some. You need to add that when you're talking, Franklin. The NIS pension.
Thank you. Go ahead, Miss.
So what I'm saying, the research has showed, that in another 14 years, right, the social pension that as we know it will be depleted, right? So if even in terms of if the sacrifices are made now, then what is going to happen when you have a smaller population working and an older retirement segment of the population with 80% or more don't have a pension? Where will the funding come from? It's only $2,000 to up my pension plan, in most instances, 2,000 Jamaican.
$2,000.
2,000 Jamaican dollars. So it's not, I know of companies who have, encouraged their staff to open individual pension. And then they determine how much they will contribute to the pension. So they make a determination that, okay, I'll only contribute a maximum of $5,000 to each person, right? Some may decide otherwise. As I said, we know at this point we don't have mandatory or automatic pension. And I'm saying to you, it is good for the nation to have such a pension, to contribute more to a pension plan, because when people get older, if you say you can't afford it now, then what's going to happen later when you have an aging population?
All right, Desmond, you had some question, and then Winnie, you have some more comments there you can take up.
Yeah, I was just trying to find out. Yeah, I was trying to find out currently the pensioners. How much is paid to pensioners per month right now? I would like to have an idea. You have an idea, Miss McKnight?
You're talking about the state pension, the NIS?
Yes.
It ranges.
No, for example, I saw the minister earlier this year announce some increases to pensioners, and I would like to know what per month. What is the take per month for a pensioner?
No, so you have different pensions. So if it's NIS you're referring to, NIS is calculated based on how many years you have been contributing to it. There's a formula that determines how much you get. So it can range from $24,000 upwards, up to $49,000 or $50,000 a month. Yes. It all depends on how long that person has been contributing to the pension. And they have to make sure that their records are up to date with the NIS, so that when it's paid out. But as I said, there are many persons who are just taking home $20,000 for the
per
NIS.
Month.
Per month in terms of NIS. Now, in terms of your personal pension or group pension, majority of the persons in Jamaica who are getting a pension, that's a personal pension or pension from the government, they are collecting about 40% of what they used to earn when they were working, right?
Okay.
So in retirement, you're actually getting less money for most persons, because most persons start contributing to a pension late, right? Yes. And when they do contribute, they contribute the minimum possible. And so when they retire, they realize it's not enough. And I would dare to say that person should not rely solely on a pension or an NIS for retirement. You need to be investing to supplement that. And I know you may say, but where will they get money to do that? One cocoa full basket.
We're going to come back to that, Ms. McLean. But Winnie, you want to take a couple of comments and so we can move?
Keith P. again. Keith P. Okay, Kirk before Kirk Gibson. Is BPM eyeing listing on the JC to TO?
On the JC, it didn't finish, yeah.
To spread its wings and push its vision to the public. That's the rest of it.
Ms. McLean.
BPM is not listed. It's not a public listed company. We're not on the stock market right now.
But he's asking if you are planning to do that.
Yes, we're planning to do that. We have a brokerage license. We'll be setting up that shortly. We have not. It's not functional at the moment. We have not launched it yet, but that's the next step. And then after that, we expect to be listed after that. But we have programs on the radio stations. We are on 5 different radio stations every week, and we talk about pension all the time and why it is a crisis right now.
I appreciate that.
And as I said to you, we tend to think that because people are poor or they at the minimum wage, they can't contribute to a pension. And I want to say that, right next door to BPM, there is a janitor. And he came across the road and opened his pension plan. Right? And every month that man pays his pension. So when persons are saying, oh, we can't afford this, but we can afford other things though. No matter how your pay is low, we are affording other things.
It's very clear. I see that you are spirited about it, but when you got to take we're going to
Moses says
soon.
Mandatory pensions work in rich, growing economies. Jamaica hasn't grown in 9 years, so forcing it would cripple small businesses.
And I disagree. I disagree with that. And one of the things, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because part of the problem is that, and
Ms.
I don't
McLean,
know.
hold on a minute. Ms. McLean, let her go through the other ones, and then we.
All right, and then I speak after that.
Because we're going to have to come back to you with a specific, but just let her go through them, and then we give you a closing session.
Okay.
Keith P. says, I don't think they have to match it 100% at the beginning, but the longer you are employed, the percent can be increased.
That is, he's saying that the employer doesn't have to match what the employee puts in. Kirk Gibson.
And Kirk says, I'm looking out for that.
Looking out for the listing on the stock exchange.
Right.
Go ahead now, Miss.
All right. When you spoke about the growth of the economy, and I am surprised up to this day that the economists, the policymakers, and even members of the private sector.
You have 1 minute.
Have not recognized that pension funds can grow the economy. Currently, when the studies have showed, that pension funds in Jamaica in 2020 was 33% of the GDP, right? Pension funds can provide infrastructure development in the country, provide water supply, do a lot of things. It's a long-term investment. It's a long-term investment, and the more persons contributing to a pension plan, it will help in the growth and development of the nation.
Thank you. I want to just mention this one by Tracy and Clark. She says, is anyone here who can sign up for a pension plan? Well, Ms. Clark, I'm sure you can go to BPM, or there are several companies which provide financing.
Yes, a lot of companies do.
And several companies, but Ms. McLean, we know that we have not dealt with this issue at all, because we need some more time, and we're going to tell you from now that we'd love you to have you back next week, but we will come back and talk to you. I really want to thank you very much. I can see your passion. I can see you looking at the ways and of us having pension for more people, far more than we have. We want to thank you, and that's our program for this week. Please remember, you can watch this podcast or portions of it at any time on the Frankly Speaking Jamaica YouTube channel. We invite you all to subscribe to the channel. We want to thank again Ms. Grace McLean from BPM Financial, Stuart Jacobs, Shanique Bowden, who we had in the first segment where we discussed hair and dress issues in school. Thanks to regular panelists Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson Brown. Special thanks also to Joshua Black, producer of the program, Joshua Black Media Services. I'm Franklin McKnight. Until then.
Thank you.